They say death comes slowly, step by step, hidden inside your heart, your mind, your very blood. But what if I told you there are 4 secret reasons why so many never see life past 80, and one of them may already be inside you? The old clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Thomas sat alone in the dimly lit room, his trembling hands clutching the armrest of the wooden chair. A chill crept through the cracks of the window, brushing against his thin skin. The doctor's words echoed in his mind, heavy and sharp. Most older people struggle to live beyond 80 because of 4 hidden health reasons. The sentence lingered like a curse. Thomas felt his chest tighten as if unseen hands pressed down upon him. The first reason was silent heart failure, often undetected until the very last breath. He pressed a palm to his chest, feeling the uneven rhythm of his heartbeat. The second was a gradual decline of the kidneys, a silent erosion that no pain warned of. His mouth felt dry, his tongue heavy, and he wondered if the dull ache in his back had been more than age. The third was the brain itself, losing memory and focus, slipping like sand through weak fingers. He stared at the flickering lamp, trying to recall the name of the neighbor who had greeted him just this morning. The fourth reason was the body's silent war against itself. Cells turning against life, leaving behind weakness and decay. Thomas shivered as he thought of the recent spots on his skin, dark and unexplainable. The room seemed smaller, the walls pressing closer. The clock ticked. Louder, steady, unforgiving. He felt as if the sound counted down not the minutes of the night, but the very moments of his life. His breath grew shallow. His eyes darted toward the window where the outside world was hidden in shadows. The thought struck him that he might already be living on borrowed time. A sudden knock at the door made his heart jolt painfully. The sound echoed like thunder in the silence of the house. He froze, every muscle rigid, the air caught in his throat. The knock came again, slower. This time deliberate. Thomas's heartbeat pounded in his ears, uneven, fragile. And then the knock came again, deeper this time, dragging against the silence like a stone across glass. Thomas's eyes widened. His throat felt raw, as though he had swallowed dust. He wanted to call out, to ask who stood on the other side, but his voice clung stubbornly to the darkness in his chest. The air inside the room thickened. The lamp flickered once more, shadows crawling along the walls like creeping fingers. He slowly pushed himself from the chair, his joints cracking, his legs trembling under his own weight. The floorboards groaned under his steps, betraying his movements. As he moved closer to the door, the knocking stopped. Silence filled the space, heavy and unnatural. His pulse quickened. The quiet pressed harder than the sound itself, each second stretching long and unbearable. Thomas leaned against the door, his ear brushing the cold wood. He strained to hear, but the world outside offered nothing. Not the rustle of wind, not the distant hum of traffic. Only silence, and then a whisper, low, broken, as if carried on the breath of someone who should not be alive. 4 reasons, Thomas, 4 reasons. His stomach clenched, his knees almost gave way. The words were the same as the doctor's warning, but the voice was not the doctor's. It was thin, unfamiliar, and it seemed to seep through the door rather than come from behind it. He stumbled back. One hand pressed against his chest, as if to steady the frantic beating inside. The whisper came again, closer this time. You feel it, do you not? The heart, the memory, the body's betrayal. Thomas's breathing grew ragged. The shadows along the walls seemed to stretch and bend toward him. The lamp hissed, the light dimming until only a faint glow remained. He remembered the ache in his back, the forgotten names, the spots on his skin. Each sign echoed louder now, each symptom stitching itself into the whisper's truth. He shook his head, muttering to himself, "This is not real. This is not real." But the voice did not stop. It lingered, curling around him like smoke. Most older people struggle to live beyond 80, but some do not struggle at all. Some simply surrender. Thomas staggered back into the chair, the wood biting into his spine. His chest rose and fell with shallow desperation. The clock on the wall ticked louder, each second slamming against his ears. He covered them with his hands, but the sound pierced through. It was not just ticking anymore, it was pounding, like a second heartbeat, relentless and mocking. The room grew colder. His breath clouded in the air, pale against the dim light. The whisper faded, replaced by something worse. A slow, dragging sound, as though feet shuffled along the hallway just beyond the door. Each scrape of the unseen step sent a violent shiver through him. He wanted to scream, but the weight of fear clamped his voice in silence. The steps stopped. The air stilled, and then the door handle turned. Thomas's heart lurched violently. The old brass knob creaked, slow, deliberate, as if whoever touched it wanted him to hear every movement. The wood groaned under the pressure, the sound sharp and unbearable in the silence. He pressed himself deeper into the chair, his nails digging into the armrests. The door opened, only a crack. Darkness leaked into the room like ink. There was no figure, no body, only the heavy presence of something watching. His skin prickled as though unseen eyes dragged across him. A cold draught swept through, carrying with it a scent he recognized but wished he did not. The smell of hospitals, sterile, metallic, the scent of endings. Thomas trembled violently. The clock ticked faster now, no longer steady but racing, mocking his heartbeat. He felt the weight of every year pressing down on him, every forgotten moment, every ache, every hidden truth of the body he once trusted. The voice returned, but this time it was inside his head, curling deep into his thoughts. "You are already past the edge, Thomas. Every second is borrowed. Every breath is a theft." His vision blurred. The walls seemed to bend inward. The lamp's faint glow collapsed into a single, trembling spark. Thomas clutched at his chest, the pain sharp, stabbing, unrelenting. He gasped for air, his lungs refusing to fill. The door creaked, wider. The shadows spilled into the room, wrapping around his legs, curling up his arms like chains. He tried to move, but his body refused. It was as if the four hidden reasons had finally claimed him all at once. The heart, the kidneys, the mind, the body's betrayal, all crashing together, merciless and final. The whisper was no longer outside him. It spoke from within his skull, his blood, his very breath. Do you see now? Do you feel the truth of why so few live beyond 80? Thomas's mouth opened, but no words came, only a strangled gasp. The clock let out one last deafening tick, and the room fell silent. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of something waiting, patient, eternal. The door stood wide open now, and, in the darkness beyond, something shifted, something unseen, something that had been waiting for him all along. The darkness beyond the doorway breathed like a living thing. It pulsed in waves, heavy, pressing against the fragile air of the room. Thomas could not move. His limbs felt nailed to the chair, every joint stiff with fear and pain. His chest rose in shallow bursts, each breath ragged, desperate. The shadows thickened, stretching further across the floorboards, curling like smoke around his feet. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked into nothing. The silence was unbearable, filled only by the echo of his own frantic heartbeat. And then, from within the blackness, came a shape. Not a person, not an animal, something in between, hunched and shifting, its form, refusing to stay steady. Thomas's eyes widened. He blinked, hoping the image would fade. But the shape only grew sharper with each second. It bent low, its outline jagged, its presence colder than winter air. He could not hear footsteps, only the dragging of weight, as if bones scraped along the floor. The smell intensified, sterile, metallic, laced with something rotten. His stomach turned, bile burning in his throat. The shape moved closer. Thomas's body screamed to run, but his legs refused. His fingers clutched the armrest until the wood groaned beneath his grip. He wanted to shut his eyes, to hide, but something stronger forced him to keep looking. The shape stopped at the edge of the light. It stood there, patient, waiting, as if daring him to acknowledge it. His breath hitched. The lamp flickered violently, shadows leaping across the walls, and, for a fleeting second, the figure revealed itself. It was not young. Its face sagged with the weight of countless years, the skin grey and cracked like old parchment. Its eyes were hollow, but within the hollowness glowed faint embers, red and watching. Thomas gasped, clutching at his chest as pain surged through him. The figure smiled, its lips splitting unnaturally wide, revealing teeth too many to count. The whisper returned, but now the voice came from its mouth. "You see me, Thomas. You see what waits for every soul past 80. His vision swam. The words echoed like chains dragged across stone. "You think death is sudden, but it is not. It is slow. It is patient. It waits inside your organs, inside your thoughts, inside your very skin." Thomas shook his head weakly, his body trembling. I am not ready," he rasped. The figure's smile widened further, stretching to the edges of its cracked face. "No one is ever ready. But the reasons are written inside you." The shadows tightened around Thomas's chest. He coughed, a harsh, broken sound, as if his lungs had turned to dust. His eyes darted toward the clock. The hands spun wildly now, round and round, time collapsing into chaos. He wanted to scream, to call for help, but the figure stepped closer, silencing him with its presence. It leaned down, so near he could feel the cold radiating from its skinless breath. Its voice seeped into his ear. The heart fails. First, always too soon. The blood grows tired. The rhythm falters. Each beat weaker than the last. Thomas's chest seized, a bolt of agony ripping through him. The figure continued. The kidneys collapse silently, poisoning the body without warning. You feel the ache, but you ignore it until it devours you. The pain spread down his back, sharp, burning, unrelenting. His body shook with every wave. The mind slips away, the figure hissed. Memories scatter, faces blur, names vanish, and what is a man without his memory? Thomas whimpered, clutching at his temple as if to hold his thoughts together. But even now he struggled to remember the sound of his wife's voice. The figure straightened, its form towering, stretching higher until it seemed to touch the ceiling. And last, it said, its voice low and final. The body betrays itself, cells twist. Flesh rots from within. The war ends, and you are no longer yours. The words struck like hammers, final, unbreakable. Thomas's body convulsed, the shadows around him tightened, wrapping him like a cocoon. The lamp shattered, glass scattering across the floor, leaving only the glow of the figure's ember eyes. The house groaned, walls bending inward, as though the entire structure collapsed into the weight of that single moment. Thomas gasped, his chest heavy, his vision clouding. But through the haze he saw something else. Behind the figure, deeper in the darkness, countless other faces watched. Old, wrinkled, empty-eyed. They stared without blinking, an audience of those who had fallen before him. Some whispered his name, some reached out with skeletal hands, their fingers stretching through the black. The figure turned slightly, as though to show him the truth of his fate. This is where the path ends, Thomas, not with peace, not with light, but with us. The chorus of whispers grew louder, a wave of voices echoing through the room. His chest burned, his heart stuttered, every muscle screamed. He could feel his body slipping, the tether of life stretching thin. The figure extended a hand, pale and cracked, waiting. Thomas's eyes welled with tears. "I do not want this," he choked. The hand did not lower. The whispers did not stop. The red embers in the figure's eyes burned brighter, piercing him. "You have no choice." The air shattered with the weight of the words. The shadows surged, flooding every corner of the room, swallowing the walls, the floor, the ceiling. The clock fell silent. No ticking. No time, only the darkness, the whispers, and the waiting figure before him. Thomas reached out weakly, his hand trembling in the air, inches from the figures, and in that moment he knew he was no longer choosing, he was surrendering. Thomas's hand hovered in the air, trembling, inches away from the figure's pale, cracked grasp. The whispers swelled around him, louder, layered, pressing against his mind until he felt he would shatter. But then something changed. The red embers in the figure's eyes dimmed, flickering like fading coals. The voices softened, as though carried away by a wind he could not feel. Thomas blinked through the haze, his chest burning, his breath shallow. For the first time he saw the figure clearly. It was not a monster. It was himself. An older reflection, frailer, twisted by fear and pain. The hollow eyes were his own, staring back at him through the veil of shadows. The weight of the 4 hidden reasons was no longer a curse whispered from beyond, but a truth his body had been carrying all along. His heartbeat slowed, steady, fragile, but real. The pain in his chest dulled, not gone, but no longer crushing. The shadows pulled back, melting into the corners of the room. The faces faded into silence, leaving only the soft tick of the clock on the wall. Thomas lowered his hand. The figure mirrored the movement, its outline blurring, breaking apart like smoke rising into the air. He sat back in the chair, his breath still heavy, but his eyes calm. He understood now. The hidden reasons were not enemies waiting to strike. They were the final steps of a journey. Every life must walk, a path of weakness, of decline, yes, but also a reminder that each day before the end was a gift. The room no longer felt like a trap. It was simply his home, worn and quiet, holding him gently. The lamp glowed once more, steady and warm. Thomas closed his eyes, not in fear, but in acceptance. The clock ticked softly, no longer rushing, no longer mocking. Each second felt precious, deliberate, and though the figure had vanished, its lesson remained. To live even when the body falters, to remember even when the mind stumbles, to breathe even when each breath is heavy. Thomas exhaled slowly, a faint smile on his lips. He was not ready to leave, not yet. But he was no longer afraid. The night passed quietly, the shadows still, and in the morning light, Thomas opened, his eyes once again alive, aware and grateful for one more day.